The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and every conversation in the lobby froze. My heels clicked against the marble as I stepped out, confident, calm, and dressed like I belonged there. Because I did. Across the hall, my cousin Natalie's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Who let her in?" she said loudly, laughing toward her friends. "She's like mold, keeps coming back no matter how many times you scrub it off." The laughter that followed was sharp and cruel. I didn't flinch. Not anymore. "Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I'd spent years being the quiet one, the girl who walked away instead of fighting back, who left everything behind when my uncle suggested I wasn't fit for their world. But today wasn't one of those days. I adjusted the strap of my leather bag, walked straight toward the reception desk, and nodded at the concierge. "Morning, Mark. I'll need my keys returned." Mark straightened instantly. "Of course, Ms. Reynolds." Natalie's grin faltered. "Ms. Reynolds? What are you talking about?" The concierge handed me the sleek silver keycard with both hands, his tone formal. "Welcome home, ma'am. Your penthouse is ready. Security will escort any unauthorized guests out." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Natalie blinked. "What? Escort who out?" That's when the guards appeared. Two tall men in dark suits. "Ma'am," one said politely to me, "we've been instructed to clear unauthorized parties from your property." I didn't even have to say a word. They turned toward her. Natalie's smirk melted into confusion. "Wait, what the hell is this? She doesn't live here. My uncle." "Correction," I said softly, finally meeting her eyes. "My late uncle. And the deed's been transferred." Her voice broke. You can't just." "Try me." The guards moved forward. The sound of her stilettos clicking backward echoed across the lobby. She tried to laugh it off, but her face had gone pale. "You're bluffing. You always were." I smiled faintly. "You'll find I stopped bluffing when I stopped needing your approval," her friends whispered as she was led toward the glass doors. Natalie spun around one last time, her voice trembling. "You think this makes you better than us?" I tilted my head. "No. It just makes me the owner of the building you're being escorted out of." The doors hissed shut behind them, and for the first time in years, the silence felt like power. When the elevator doors closed behind them, I finally exhaled. My reflection in the mirrored panel looked calm, maybe even collected, but underneath that stillness, a storm was brewing. 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined this moment. Back then, I was living out of a cramped apartment, working double shifts just to keep the lights on. The same cousin who'd mocked me minutes ago used to stop by only to gloat. "You had your chance, Claire," she'd said once, sipping coffee from a mug I couldn't afford. "You should have married someone rich instead of chasing those silly dreams." That silly dream had turned into Reynolds Holdings, my own company. I never told her how it happened. I didn't need to. Some victories speak loudest in silence. As the elevator ascended, my phone buzzed. A message from my assistant, Jason. "Jason, legal transfer complete. You're now sole owner of Penthouse 47 and 48. Welcome home." I smiled faintly. Welcome home. 2 words I hadn't heard in years. When the doors opened, the penthouse greeted me like a memory resurrected, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline, sunlight spilling across marble floors, and the faint scent of cedar from the furniture I'd chosen years ago before everything went wrong. I ran my hand along the back of the sofa. It was exactly how I remembered it. My uncle hadn't changed a thing since he'd kicked me out. "Because family doesn't hand things to failures," he'd said, that day echoing in my head like a bad song. "Natalie understands how this business works. You don't." He'd smirked as I stood by the door, my bags packed and my pride shattered. "Go chase your dreams, Claire. Just don't come running back when they fall apart." And I hadn't. I'd built something from nothing, alone, bruised, and determined. I'd worked in freezing warehouses, managed inventory on night shifts, and pitched investors who laughed in my face. But the moment my startup merged with the very corporation that once fired me, everything changed. I didn't just rise. I took the seat they thought I'd never deserve. Now, standing here, the city stretched out before me like an empire finally under my name. The intercom buzzed. Mark's voice came through, cautious. "Ms. Reynolds, the guests have left." They were, not very happy. "Neither was I said quietly. "Thank you, Mark." He hesitated. "It's good to have you back, ma'am." I ended the call, but his words lingered. "Good to have you back." I poured a glass of water and stared out the window. It wasn't just revenge that brought me here. It was something heavier. The kind of justice life rarely gives unless you fight tooth and nail for it. Behind me, my phone buzzed again, this time with a call. "Natalie." I let it ring once.
Twice.
Then I answered. "What do you want?"
I said, voice steady.
Her tone was shrill, cracking under panic. "You think you can just take everything? That penthouse was my dad's. You're nothing without this family." "I was nothing because of this family," I replied. There was silence, then a bitter laugh. "You think people respect you? You're just playing rich. Everyone knows you begged for investors. You probably sold your dignity too." I cut her off. "Careful, Natalie. You're talking to the woman who signs your department's paychecks now." Her voice broke. "What are you saying? You didn't check your company email this morning, did you?" I said softly. "Reynolds Holdings acquired Montgomery Estates last night. That means I own more than just this building." For a moment, I heard nothing, no breathing, no noise, just silence. Then she whispered, "You bought us?" "Bought you?" I let out a short laugh.
"No.
I bought the company that owns your job, your condo, and your lifestyle. The rest is just paperwork." She inhaled sharply, like she'd been slapped. "You can't do this." "Oh, Natalie," I said, looking out over the glittering skyline. "I already did." When the call disconnected, I stood there in the quiet, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not triumph, but peace. Because revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes it's calm, quiet, and legal. I turned back to the room. Every inch of this space held memories, some painful, some tender. My mother's laughter echoed faintly in my mind. She'd always told me, the best kind of revenge is success they can't undo. She'd been right. The city glowed below as night began to fall. Somewhere out there, Natalie was probably raging, trying to figure out how I'd done it. But the truth was simple. She underestimated the girl she'd called weak. I wasn't weak. I was patient. And patience built empires. 2 days later, I got the invitation I knew was coming. A charity gala at the Grand Regency Hotel. The same event my family had once barred me from, saying I didn't fit the image. Now, the invitation bore my name in gold. Claire Reynolds, CEO, Reynolds Holdings. Fitting, I thought. They wanted me invisible back then. Now, they couldn't host without me. When I arrived, the room was glowing with chandeliers and the low hum of expensive conversations. Waiters moved through the crowd like clockwork, trays gleaming with champagne and silver spoons. I'd been to enough of these events to know that beneath all that glitter, the whispers were sharper than glass. As soon as I walked in, heads turned. Some smiled, some stiffened, and a few whispered into their glasses. I ignored them all. The only person I was looking for stood near the piano, Natalie, draped in a scarlet gown that screamed money she didn't earn. Her eyes found me instantly. I could almost see her jaw clench. She didn't wait long. With a glass of champagne in her hand and venom in her smile, she walked straight toward me. "Well, if it isn't the prodigal cousin," she said, her tone sweet and toxic. "Enjoying your stay in my penthouse." "My penthouse," I corrected softly. "But yes, it's comfortable. Thanks for keeping it clean all those years." A few nearby guests turned to look, curious, hungry for drama. Natalie noticed and raised her voice just enough for everyone to hear. "Oh, please. We all know what really happened. You lucked out, didn't you? Some investor took pity on you and handed you a fortune." The air around us tensed. I smiled slightly. If that's what helps you sleep at night, go ahead. She leaned closer, lowering her voice now, sharp as a blade. You can buy buildings, Claire, but you can't buy class. Everyone still knows where you came from. Don't think money changes that. I didn't flinch. You're right, I said, tone calm. Money doesn't buy class. But it does buy microphones. Her brows furrowed, confused. At that exact moment, the host at the podium tapped the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome our newest sponsor, the woman who single-handedly rescued Montgomery Estates from bankruptcy, Ms. Claire Reynolds. Every spotlight in the room turned to me. The applause was instant, loud, real, and thunderous. I could feel Natalie's grip on her champagne glass tighten until it trembled. I stepped toward the stage, heels clicking with quiet authority. The same floor she used to walk over me on. Taking the mic, I smiled at the crowd. Thank you. It's an honor to stand here tonight. Some of you may remember me from a time when I didn't belong in rooms like this. But life has a funny way of changing the guest list. A few polite laughs echoed through the hall. I could feel Natalie's eyes burning holes into my back. I continued, steady and unshaken. This city taught me that sometimes the people who shut doors on you are just making space for you to build your own. And when you do, don't knock. Own the building. Applause again, longer this time. Cameras flashed. When I stepped off the stage, Natalie was waiting near the champagne bar, her expression unreadable. You just love humiliating me, don't you? She hissed. I met her gaze evenly.
No.
I just love the truth. She scoffed. You think you've won? You're still alone. You've got power, but no one who loves you. That one stung, but only for a second. I took a slow breath. Maybe. But I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who cheer when I fall. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Behind us, a few of her friends pretended to chat, but were clearly eavesdropping. The same women who'd laughed at me in the lobby days ago. One of them whispered, "She actually owns the building?" Natalie turned, her face paling. "Let's go," she snapped, storming toward the exit. I didn't stop her. As she disappeared through the glass doors, I turned back toward the city, lights outside. My reflection stared back, not the timid girl they'd mocked, but a woman who'd fought her way back from nothing. For a moment, I thought of my mother again. Her voice, calm and wise, seemed to echo in my head. Never chase revenge, Claire. Just rise so high they can't reach you. Maybe I hadn't taken revenge in the way Natalie expected. No shouting, no chaos, no public breakdowns. But I'd done something far better. I turned every insult into a stepping stone. Later that night, as I left the hotel, the doorman smiled and tipped his cap. "Good evening, Ms. Reynolds. Your car's ready." I paused. My car, a black Bentley with tinted windows. The same brand my uncle once told me I'd never sit in without borrowing someone's keys. I smiled faintly as the driver opened the door. "Thank you." As the city lights blurred past, I thought about how fragile power really is, how quickly it shifts when you stop begging for it. I wasn't the same woman who used to stand outside that penthouse, holding back tears. I was the woman who owned it. And that was enough. A week passed. The city moved on, but Natalie didn't. By Monday morning, my inbox was flooded with half-truths and anonymous messages, whispers of a scandal, accusations about how I'd stolen the penthouse, even fake screenshots that looked conveniently damaging. Her style was predictable. When she couldn't win with words, she tried to destroy with lies. Jason, my assistant, stormed into my office, jaw tight. "Claire, someone's trying to spin a story online. They're saying you used insider connections to take over Montgomery Estates. The source is—"
Natalie.
I didn't react. I just leaned back in my chair and said quietly, "Let her." Jason blinked. "You're not going to fight back?" "Oh, I already did," I said, turning my laptop screen toward him. "Check the news." On the front page of the city's business journal was a headline that made him grin. Claire Reynolds donates $5 million to housing charity for women starting over. I'd signed the papers that morning. Timing, after all, is everything. She wanted a scandal, I said, standing up, so I gave her a story. The truth one. By afternoon, reporters were calling my office, not to question me, but to praise the move. A woman who built herself from the ground up, one article said, now helping others do the same. Jason laughed under his breath. That's going to burn her alive. I smiled faintly. I don't need to burn anyone. Some people do that on their own. Later that night, as I stood by the penthouse window watching the city lights flicker, my phone buzzed again. Natalie. This time, I answered. Her voice was quieter than before, stripped of venom. You really went through with it, she said. You made everyone love you. I took a slow breath. I didn't make them love me, Natalie. I just stopped giving them a reason to doubt me.
Silence.
Then she muttered. I wanted you to hurt. You made us all look small. You did that yourselves, I said calmly. I just stopped playing along. She didn't reply. I could hear her breathing, shaky and uneven. Then she whispered something I never expected to hear. I'm sorry. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Apologies weren't part of Natalie's vocabulary. I never wanted to take what was yours, I said softly. I just wanted to build something that was mine. The line went quiet. Then she said, almost brokenly, I don't know who I am without the family's name. I felt something shift inside me, not pity, but understanding. Then maybe it's time you find out, I said gently. You're stronger than you think. You just never had to be. She hung up without another word. I stared out the window again, the skyline reflecting in the glass. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or triumph. Just peace. Because revenge isn't about watching them fall. It's about standing tall when they thought you never would. A knock on the door pulled me back. Mark, the concierge, stepped in holding an envelope. This just arrived for you, Ms. Reynolds. Inside was a small note, no name, no signature, just 5 words in familiar handwriting. You earned this. Be proud. I didn't need to guess who sent it. My late uncle had written those exact words to me when I graduated college. Maybe Natalie had found one of his old letters and sent it. Maybe it was her way of saying goodbye. Either way, it didn't matter. I turned toward the window again, letting the city lights wash over me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was trying to prove anything. I was home. Not because I owned the penthouse, but because I'd finally owned myself. And in the quiet, I whispered to the city that had watched me rise. Let them wonder how I did it.